It's mailbag time here on NFL Daily. Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports ready and eager to answer your questions. Remember, if you can't join us on our live show, there's a really cool button underneath the video that's called Super Thanks. Click that Super Thanks button, and we'll make sure that we feature you on a future show. Super chat coming in from Mr. Stegosaurus. Tyler Huntley, type player who plays okay but gets way too overhyped. Also, incoming PR disaster if Cap gets signed to the Raiders. Yeah, I don't think the Raiders end up making the move for Colin Kaepernick. I would be shocked if they do it. I put out a video on the Raiders Report of the good and the bad of it going down. Tyler Huntley's a good player, but I do believe Huntley would be one of those dudes where the more and more tape a team gets on him, the less effective he would be, which is kind of what you saw last season. Let's go to Sam. Can AJ and Devonta both have over 1,000 for Philly? So can AJ Brown and Devonta Smith have over 1,000 yards for Philly? Yes, just not with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback. Because I think AJ Brown and Devonta Smith both are absolutely 1,000-yard receivers. It's just as long as Jalen Hurts is the quarterback, he's not a very good passer. I'm sorry, it's going to be a run-first team. So when Hurts is no longer there, my answer is yes. If Hurts is there, my answer is no. Next one coming in here is from Sean, the RC Mechanic. Long time no see, fam. Got a quick question. Are there any more offensive and defensive linemen that the Falcons should sign if they can afford them? It's a valid question. I will say that if I was Atlanta, I would prioritize the offensive line over the defensive line personally. I should say Atlanta at this point, they're just taking all these players from like former teams. Like you see, they took a lot of players from the Raiders. They've taken some guys from Chicago. I'll say if you need an offensive tackle, Darrell Williams, Riley Reif, they're probably the top two guys out there. The issue is this. After June 1st for Atlanta, if I was Atlanta, I would try to save my money and build for the future. And I know fans hate hearing that. But does anybody think that Atlanta's going to be competing this year? I know I certainly don't. What up, Todd Archer? Mitch, you're not the biggest fan of Kellen Mond. Would you rather have Colin Kaepernick? You're right. I do not believe in Kellen Mond. I would have never even drafted Mond. I thought it was a wasted pick by Minnesota. But hey, maybe Kellen would probably just say, oh, you're acting like Mike Zimmer. You're hating on me. And I just don't believe in Mond having the potential. Here's the other thing, though. I really don't understand why anybody would want to go ahead and bring in Colin Kaepernick at 34 years old. I would rather have a young Kellen Mond than a 34-year-old Colin Kaepernick. That's me being very, very brutally honest with everyone watching right now. But you guys be honest with me because that's what Chat Sports is about. Why for yes and for no? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Will Colin Kaepernick play in the NFL ever again? Tua is trash coming in here with a question. I'm sure I'd love to hear what Willie Finns has to say. Do you believe Tua can be a franchise quarterback? Because I sure don't believe in him as a Miami Dolphins fan. Honestly, this shocks me that you don't believe in Tua. Couldn't ever guess that. No, I used to do a lot of videos over for our Dolphins channel, and I'm not a Tua believer. I don't think there's any chance in hell that he's ever going to be a top 20 quarterback. The arm strength isn't there. He's got bad footwork. And on top of that, not a lot of mobility in the hips. I just don't see it. Miami is pissing away a window right now where they have a lot of really good players around him. And if they had a halfway decent quarterback, this team could compete for a Super Bowl. But because they have Tua, they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So I'm not a Tua believer. I've never been a Tua believer. I don't see how anybody can be a Tua believer. Let's go to Jalen. What up, man? Do you really think the Browns can be a good football team? Because I'm looking at this roster, especially the wide receiver position, and they don't hype me up like other teams in the AFC, but what do you think? Is Cleveland going to be good? Yes. But I am a believer that Deshaun Watson ends up getting suspended. And our guy who covers the Browns, Matthew Peterson, has a very interesting take where Cleveland doesn't have any primetime games the first 7 or 8 weeks. With that roster, with Deshaun Watson, I think the NFL knows something that none of us do. So I'll say they can compete. But I also thought that last year, and the Browns have always had, I thought, a good roster on paper. Yes, the wide receiver room is a little bit concerning, but if you go out and pay Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed dollars, he should be able to do with almost any kind of wide receiver room, because if you're paying somebody that much, they need to be able to carry the team no matter who is on the team. Let's go to Capman. Should the Giants sign a veteran corner? Yes. I actually like the talent that the Giants have at the cornerback position, but I think most Giants fans would agree that there's a lot of injury concerns with those players. Like your top guy is Adoree Jackson. He's a phenomenal player, but he has a lot of injury concerns. If you're able to go out and get somebody like a Janoris Jenkins, yes, bring him back to New York. Or even if you're looking for somebody in the slot, somebody like Chris Harris Jr., other veterans to keep in mind, I would say Xavier Rhodes would be another interesting name. Maybe a Rashad Breeland out there as well. But that's just my 2 cents. If you guys haven't already subscribed to Chat Sports, make sure you go ahead and do so. We get you guys at least a video every single day. We go live multiple times a week. Whether you want NFL or NBA content, Chat Sports is your one-stop shop. So seriously, hit that sub button. Mixie's Lee, Niners, trade Jimmy or cut him now. I think if you ended up cutting Jimmy Garoppolo, it would be a major loss for San Francisco. I will say I think the way Kyle Shanahan and Lynch have handled this whole Garoppolo situation has not looked good. The 49ers have done a lot of amazing things underneath those two guys, but I will say the way that they've handled this has been a little bit of a frown. Not 100% sure how much I believe in Trey Lance, but Jimmy G you can't cut him. I just can't understand a world where you cut Jimmy Garoppolo, and if they do, you can at least get something for him. If that's a 5th-round pick, you got to do it, but I would have thought at the beginning of the year you could have got a 2nd at least for Jimmy G. What up, Evan Hinder? Steelers should sign Jared McKinnon. So, Jerick McKinnon. I was a big fan of McKinnon, actually, when he was first coming out of college. Then he had a phenomenal year with the Minnesota Vikings, signed a big-time deal with the 49ers, got banged up a little bit. But I was impressed by the way he looked in the Kansas City Chiefs offense last year. I will say, I pump my brakes when I say that because Kansas City has a dynamic offense. But McKinnon looked better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the 1st-round pick. If McKinnon's healthy and you need him to be we'll just say a pass-catching back on any offense, I do think it's interesting, but that would really hurt my Najee Harris fantasy stock because I have Najee Harris as a potential top 5 running back this upcoming season. So a lot of times, y'all, when we're watching these shows or doing these shows together, I'm always saying, hey, who's your favorite team? Well, how about this? Which quarterback is the starter for your favorite NFL team? Please, seriously, let me know who your favorite team is by letting me know who the quarterback is. Does that make sense? I sure hope so. So, guys, we are not only live here on YouTube, we also make videos on Rumble, and we are approaching 5,000 followers on Rumble. It's pretty impressive. If you're a diehard NFL fan looking for extra content, support the show, support Chat Sports, go ahead, give us a follow, rumble.com/NFL Daily. Let's go to Double D. Doug, if Cap doesn't sign with the Raiders, do you think the Seahawks make sense? I would say the 2 teams that make the most sense to me probably would be the Seattle Seahawks, and then I'll go ahead and throw out a team like the Houston Texans. I mean, those are the only teams that I really think truly make sense for Cap at this current moment. But for Seattle, Seattle's been the team that has been linked to him before just this most recent workout with the Raiders. So how about this? Let's play a little bit of a game here. Who's the best quarterback? Let's say Seattle goes out. They sign Colin Kaepernick. Who do you believe is the best quarterback? Is it Drew Lock, type DL? Would it be Geno Smith, GS? Or Colin Kaepernick, CK? There's that old saying, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. But what happens if you have 3 quarterbacks? Mike, woo! Who does Will Fuller fit in with, or is he no longer an NFL option? He's definitely still an NFL option. It's just which team feels like that they can take on the risk. Will Fuller is a hell of a receiver. He's always been a very talented guy. He has shown that with his days. The issue is he can never stay healthy. If I was a team, like if you were to tell me, all right, which team is the most likely to go out and get Will Fuller right now, I would put my money on the Cleveland Browns. And it's simply They need extra receiver help, and Fuller has that relationship with Deshaun Watson in the past. He was bad last season for Miami. He had 4 catches for, 26 yards, and he had 3 of those catches in week 1. If Will's healthy, he's a good player. However, I don't know if you can rely on it. Let's go to Clint Spencer. How many games will Deshaun Watson be suspended? My guess, I don't have a good answer. I'm going to say, though, 6 to 8 games is my guess. And that's just me simply basing it off of the NFL not giving the Browns any primetime games the first 8 games of the season. And the fact that he's going to make only $1 million technically this upcoming season. The Browns know something that we don't. The NFL is going to end up doing something. But I could be totally wrong. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's totally fine. But I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit ballsy with this one. If you guys haven't seen your question on today's show, we got 280 people watching us live right now. You can always hit me up on IG or on Twitter. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. I try to keep you guys up to date with NFL news, NFL rumors, segments that I put out. If you have a question, please don't be afraid to DM me. I also keep you guys up to date with Raiders information as well. Let's go to Reggie. Reggie Wallace, you're next up here. Diontae Johnson is unhappy and wants a new deal. Could he get a new deal or will he get traded? I like NFL rumors a lot, and this is a new one that's starting to pop up. And again, this is the overreaction part of the offseason, right? Player doesn't show up to OTAs or voluntary workouts, and people panic a little bit. I will say this, though. The Pittsburgh Steelers have historically been a team that doesn't pay top receivers. Antonio Brown, traded them. Mike Wallace, moved on from him. I'm trying to think. Santonio Holmes, they moved on from him. Like, this is an organization, Martavis Bryant, they weren't afraid to move on. Like, they have never really committed towards a receiver, Juju. They just moved on from him. So if Deontay's like, pay me or trade me, might be a bad situation. So, shout out to producer Jack for making this on the fly. Should the Steelers give Diontae Johnson a new deal? 1 for yes, 0 for no. You're talking about a player who's getting ready to enter his 4th year, coming off a season where he had over 100, I think he had 107 catches last season. I want to say 1,161 yards off the top of my head. Hopefully that's correct. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Should the Steelers give Diontae Johnson a new deal? What up, Matty? 7088 Raiders. What team do you think OBJ will sign with? Oh, boy. Figuring out a destination for OBJ is definitely not an easy one. I know there's some teams or people linking him to the Saints, but that's because some people are a little bit worried about Michael Thomas. That would be, that's where Jarvis went. OBJ and Jarvis are very good friends, so I'm going to go ahead and just say the New Orleans Saints is where I think OBJ ends up.